Good evening, everyone. Hi, Bejanae.
Stuck on mute. How you doing, Dr. Houston?
I'm doing well. Thank you all for joining us again. We were just on a minute ago in the Power of Collaboration. This is our author showcase. We are doing two back-to-back shows because we have four phenomenal authors that are poets as well sign up to be featured today. So we wanted to make sure that the segments were short enough for people to keep everyone's attention and provide you all with some great information. I'm Dr. Sheka Houston, a part of Create and Educate. We help educators and entrepreneurs connect more with schools and get what you have to offer into schools through our module program. And Miss Bejanae with BK Consulting, my grant guru partner here, helps provide you with more information on grants.
That's right.
So it is National Poetry Month. So that's why we're featuring authors who have poetry. And tell us who we have with us, Bijane. I'm going to
Oh,
bring them
I
up.
am so excited for part two. Part two. So first off, we have Adia Palmer, and she's a Jamaican author. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say spicy. She lives boldly by her mission statement to entertain and educate through the written and spoken words. Words in the forms of it could be novels, it could be poems, it could be quotes, it could be songs. So that's why she's amazing and we have her on. And just to give you a little context into her background, she was born in Hanover, April the 18th. So she has a birthday coming up, huh?
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Happy
Okay.
birthday.
Happy early
happy
birthday.
birthday. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
And she
you.
lived her young life in Westmoreland with her grandmother. She went on and got a bachelor's of arts degree in history from the University of Michigan. And she had many ambitions growing up, like we all do. We dream, right? We're dreamers. And Adia specifically recalls that the one thing that stayed with her was always wanting to become an author, right? And so she now creates content that affects and brings joy to her readers because she considers um, things from her own life, right? Her greatest assets. And she wants to either represent their realities or take them away into fantasy. So that's why we have Adia here as
Okay.
one of our authors for Poetry Month, as well as Mr. Vincent Taylor. Hey,
Right.
hey, Vincent.
What's going on, Miss
Hey.
Bejanae?
Hey, did you know that he is called the rapping teacher, y'all? Did y'all know that's his AKA he goes
I
by?
didn't know until I read the bio.
He is the rapping teacher. He works in many schools. He's a huge fan of music. And as a result of this passion, he's written a reading program that helps students in the area of reading comprehension called Rhythmic Reading with Rap, right? We're going to dig into that in a second. He also has written several fictional children's books. Cornbread runs for class president. Cornbread has a bad habit. Cornbread faces a school bully. So many adventures with Cornbread, right? And he also founded Try Eclipse Incorporated. Did I pronounce that right? Try
Yes,
Eclipse?
exactly.
Back all the way many moons ago, back in 2001. So you all are celebrating what, your
20,
21st
yeah, 21st anniversary now.
anniversary? Okay.
Yes.
And his goal with that is to offer intriguing publications, highly interactive professional development, and engaging presentations to students and educators around the globe. Okay, Vincent, we're gonna have to talk offline because PD, that's my thing. That is my jam.
All right.
So I'm gonna
Yes.
pass it back over to Dr. Houston now that I've had to introduce our fabulous, phenomenal poets and authors to get us kicked off with our show tonight.
Right.
Thank you, Bijane. And thank you all for joining us and welcome. And I looked distracted because I was trying to share the feed to different groups to make sure that this message gets out to as many people as we can engage. But I wanted to start with Adia. Wow, that you're from Jamaica because my school actually participated in the International Teacher Exchange Program. So I hired about 10 teachers from Jamaica. So we have learned so much about their culture. Every year they would provide us with just different information like the voting process and how it compared to the United States and just so many different things that we learn from one another. So I know that your culture is very rich and they had such great things to add to our school and our students, and we're able to connect to our students. One of the things that I thought about as I was reading your bio, sometimes with they've told me that in Jamaica, of course, the education system is different in that I think it's more of a pay system versus being free here in America as far as being educated. So there's a different appreciation. So sometimes it's a little harder for the international teachers that are from Jamaica and different places to connect to our students because the culture here is so different. So when I saw that your books, I was like, oh, wow, what a great way to be able to make that connection with your teacher that's an international teacher from Jamaica. And here's a book that has some, Jamaican references in it where they're still learning and it's connected to reading and literacy, but they're also learning about their teacher's culture and connecting all of that together. So that was one thing that I thought about. And that's basically what we do with our module system with Create and Educate. My partner, Tammy Taylor, who was an elementary principal, I served as a middle school principal last year. Actually, this is my first year at the district level as the MTSS director. But I've been in education for 19 years, and we were school turnaround principals. Our schools were unsatisfactory. And of course, we were charged with making sure that they came out of that status. And one of the ways that we were able to do that was really just thinking outside of the box. Our children, had a hard time connecting to a lot of the literature. So we brought in a lot of culturally relevant literature from self-published authors, and they were able to connect with that a lot better. So when we found these authors that we at the time really weren't aware of, because in education we're so traditional, we just order from the catalogs that they send to the school. And a lot of times those are not the things that connect with children. So when we were intentional about seeking out things that were different, things that were not in the schools, and making sure that they were in every classroom, making sure that every student had access to them, our school report card grades increased. Mine went up 2 report card grade levels in 1 year. Her report card grade level went up 3 report card grade levels in 1 year. And a lot of it was just that we were able to make sure our students were empowered by what they were reading, as well as being able to connect to it.
Right.
So our module system is something that helps authors and entrepreneurs be able to do that. And Mr. Taylor, Mr. Vincent, we have several of your books. This one, I think,
What?
yeah. We have your book of poetry, and we have your cornbread series.
Oh my gosh.
And we were honored.
Making me blush. Making me blush.
Definitely honored to be featured in your accountability journal, where
I need one of those.
Yes, it's awesome for students. We were quoted, and my quote was, "Show the world who you are. Don't allow the world to tell you who you should be." So it was an honor to be able to be included with so many renowned educators that you included in that piece of work.
Thank you again for your input. Your contribution. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing it. So, Bejanae, do you want to talk about ask the questions first?
Yeah, let's get into it, y'all. Let's
Definitely.
get into it. So I'm curious. I want to know about you all's journey to authorships, to poetry, right? We've all written a poem or two in school, but I wouldn't call myself a poet. So what would you say inspired you to write a book of poetry? Because that's a very specific genre, right? Adia, I'm gonna start with you first, and then Vincent, if you wouldn't mind responding next. So what inspired you to write a book of poetry?
I have always been writing. Poetry is just one of the genres that I do, and it's perhaps the easiest one for me because I connect deeply with my feelings and the world around me, because they say life imitate art. So I just look around and I just put pen to paper, and that's how my poetry really comes around. I I draw an inspiration from everywhere. So the poems that I have in this book here, Blue Sunflower, it's not
Mhm.
so much Jamaican. It's just it's a book of love poems, and love is universal. So it
Mhm.
connects with everybody really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask you that. Who do you write for typically? You write for adults, you write for children. Who do you write for? You write for both?
Okay. I write for everyone, but
Okay.
because I do so many different types of writing, I do motivational books, I
Okay.
do novels, I do local Jamaican novels, I also do international novels, I do poetry. But I find that with the poetry, it's more general. It's very
Gotcha.
Mhm.
general, mostly adult related, but not limited to my country or my culture.
Gotcha. I love
Gotcha.
that. Vincent, how about you? What inspired you to write a book of poetry?
So interesting enough, the first book that I wrote, Rhythmic Reading, I wrote that strictly because of my situation being in a classroom with my students teaching in the inner city school. But at the
Mhm.
same time of writing that book, I wanted to express how I felt. So when I write rhythmic reading, I'm in that teaching frame of mind. So that's how that book was born. But my favorite genre is songwriting. So that's a whole nother mindset. But when I write poetry, I'm like, okay, let me let people know who Vincent Taylor is. If I'm writing cornbread, I have to become cornbread to write those words.
Okay.
This poetry book is who I am.
Mm,
And I like to write in a way that gets people to think. So some of the things that you may read in my poetry book may be things that I personally experience, or just someone I know. It's my observation. I want to write about it. And I write it in a way where it's not so exact. It's something that when you, like, for example, if I write a poem about my experience playing football,
mhm.
when you read it, if you were participating in karate or tennis or even pursuing higher education, that particular poem would be so open that it would relate to you. You would identify with it, and
Gotcha.
it would resonate with you. So
Gotcha.
again, to answer your question, I wanted to find a way just to express who Vincent Taylor was in a way that people would not really get to know Vincent.
Gotcha. And then who would you say you write for mostly? Is it children? Is it adults? I know we have a lot of cornbread adventures, but who would you say you you tend to
Yeah.
target?
So the portrait book was mainly therapy. It was
Okay.
it was really for me. But
Okay.
as I
Wow.
stand back now as a publisher, I would have to say my audience would be adults.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
And I put Adia's links in the comments. I'm going to put yours in there next, Vincent.
Okay.
Um, and this time we'll start with Vincent. What would you say? And you've written a few different works. What would you say to authors who are aspiring or either on the journey already? What would be your tip that you think would kind of cut out some pitfalls or some of the best tips that you could offer to help people on this journey?
All right. So I had to learn the hard way because, like I said, I started this journey 21 years ago. So
Mhm.
when it came to how to publish a book, I didn't have a mentor, no one to sort of guide me. So
Mhm.
literally, I would open a book. Okay, what is this? That number. I'm on the internet. I'm just researching. So I had to do all that research on my own. But once I got the book published,
Mhm.
I then learned now the hard work begins.
Yeah.
Marketing,
Yes.
marketing,
Mhm.
marketing.
Okay.
So for anyone who has that book that they're working on, and I know you feel your book is the best thing since sliced bread. And it
Yeah.
probably is, but the only thing about it is, right, exactly. If no one knows about it, no one can read it. And I
Right.
learned that very early. I'll tell you a quick story. I went to this is when I only had rhythmic reading, right? I
Mhm.
went to a conference in Tampa, Florida.
Mhm.
I had used my rhythmic reading book in the classroom. I gotten results from rhythmic reading. So I knew as an educator, this was a good book. right?
Mm-hmm.
So I go to Tampa. I set up as a vendor. I'm standing there like 6, 7 hours. Guess how much money I made on that day?
How much?
$60. I
Well,
sold
60.
two
Oh, that's better.
books.
That's better. Okay.
Two books.
Two books.
Right.
As
Lesson
I'm
learned.
leaving the conference, lady walks by and said, "Hey, I'm having a conference in your city in Jacksonville, Florida. Would you like to be a part of it?" And I'm thinking, this lady is crazy because no, I don't want to be a part of this same type of torture. But something, I wasn't something, God said,
Right.
say yes. I
Mm-hmm.
said yes. And I know this was him speaking to me because not only did I say yes, I said, if you don't have a speaker, if you need a speaker, I'd like to be a presenter. Now, mind you, I had never spoken in my life. I had never
Mm-hmm.
gotten in front of an audience. I am was the shyest person in Jacksonville, Florida. But God
Mm-hmm.
made me say it. She called me and said, "Hey, we have an opening." So my first presentation I did in front of 300 College of Ed students.
Wow.
I
That's
sold $3,000 after the presentation was over.
wow.
So I
Big
realized
difference.
if you want to get your material out there, you have to get in front of people. Let them
Mm-hmm.
see what your material is about. Let them
Mm-hmm.
feel it. Let them experience it. And, that's how it happened for me.
That's right. Marketing is forever, ever, ever,
Yes.
ever.
Yes.
It's ongoing.
It is. And when you're self-published, you're the one that has to do it. There's no
Yes.
company doing it for you. So
You're
that's an
right.
And
awesome
even
tip.
and even when you go with the publisher, sometimes there you still have to still promote
Mm, that's
Right.
and
That's
true.
market
right.
That's
as
true.
well. Nadia,
Definitely.
how about you? What would you say is your
I,
most
s-
valuable tip?
I second everything that Mr. Taylor just said. I am still struggling with the marketing part. And it's so hard because when you're the writer, you don't have the drive to be the marketer as well. But
Mm,
you have to do it. I would just add a few more things. If just continue honing your craft.
mm-hmm.
Because if you have this talent, it's not something that you chose, it was given to you. And at
Mm-hmm.
some point, the creator is going to fulfill his purpose through you. So keep honing your craft and try as best as you can to write. Never stop writing. I would also say get to understand copywriting as well,
Hmm.
because you can lose your work if you're not careful. And surround yourself with persons who will encourage you, because sometimes it is so hard to continue. So you'll want to give up. But if persons can remind you why you started the journey in the first place, that helps as well. Believe in yourself. Believe that you're doing this for a reason. Believe that someone needs to hear what you have to say. And believe that you're touching someone just now. So for Mr. Taylor, who sold the two books, that was important as the 3,000 persons that he got to speak with. So you're always touching somebody at the right time. Yeah,
Yes.
so that would be my addition to it.
I love that. I love that. And one of the things, as an equity advocate, as an educator, as an author and founder of BK International Education Consultancy, our mission specifically is to help amplify education equity, so children of color can have access to quality education regardless of what zip code they live in, or what community that they're in, or the color of their skin. And so one way we do that is we help educators, but we also help authors on how do you tap into grant writing? And some people will say, well, what does that have to do with being an author, right? Well, it has several things to do with being an author, because one thing that we know for sure is that literacy is always going to be a priority area in schools, period. And if you can put rich texts, such as the ones that you have, whether it's poetry, whether it's a novel, it's culturally rich and you see diverse characters in that, that is going to be a win in terms of being engaging for students. And what grants help to do is to help, instead of you giving away those books that you had at that event, Vincent, you could have away because you could have had a grant to pay for those books, that
Right.
you could have maybe had some raffles or work with the school to do maybe an author reading in schools.
Mm.
Schools love for authors to come in and do
Mm-hmm.
story time with kids, right? And that's a way to get that funded without that coming out of your pocket.
Mm.
And so one strategy I would say in terms of around grant writing, for you all to consider, if you haven't already, is to think about grants that are focused on the creative arts or poetry. because there's a lot of focus on social emotional learning these days.
Mhm.
Literacy, like I said, is always going to be a thing. And so you can help support social emotional learning through creativity, through arts, through poetry, through reading. And so those are some avenues that would help one increase your book sales, help increase your readership, so you can get them into more schools. And even if your books are for adults, guess what? That's great, because who are teaching kids?
Adults. And the
Adults.
principals love to buy them gifts, or make sure
Right.
that motivation stays in place. So
That's right. And
Okay.
Teacher Appreciation Month, the week is coming up in May, just right around the corner. So this is a prime opportunity to be able to tap into grants, and to, like I said, expand your readership and your reach with your book. Because, like you said, marketing, that's hard. That's hard. That is hard work. I
Mhm.
didn't go to school for that.
Right.
We didn't go to school for that, right? But grants
Right.
is a great way to do that. And as Tammy mentioned, Tammy has a module specifically with create and educate on how to conduct business with school. And we also, with BK International Education Consultancy, have a module on unpacking the science of grant writers. What are funders looking for? How do you craft your need statement? How do you set up a SMART goal and create it into a quality proposal that, as you shop it around, you're more likely to see success from that? So again, that you can increase your sales, increase your readership, and ultimately help impact children and people's lives, right? Because you pour yourself. I can tell that you all are passionate about what you're putting into your novels, into your stories, into your poetry, and people relate to that. People relate to that. People relate to that.
Definitely. And the module system that Create and Educate has that Bejanae referenced, we really help you define who you are as an author. If you haven't done that already, we show you how to evaluate your website, plan for the year. We kind of give you those ins and outs of what we do as principals, because we're going to stalk you on everything. We don't want no scandals at the school.
Right.
You got to make sure you're bringing in the right thing, and that it's not going to be something that causes any backlash. We help you figure out what problems you're solving in education, because a lot of times that's your key in, that you're solving some type of problem. And usually it's with literacy, but a lot of times it could be with other things as well. Like I talked about how our international teachers sometimes have a little bit of trouble connecting. So that culture piece could be a problem that could be solved with some of your books, Adia. How to connect to the funding sources, because we have grants like Title I, Title IV, Title V. We explain all of those and let you know that jargon to be able to talk to the principals about how to connect there, and helping you develop your email campaign as well. So we're going to put the information of how you can get the module systems from us. And since we're at the end here, we would like for you all to read an excerpt from your work of poetry, because it's National Poetry Month. So we want to highlight you all and give you that opportunity to read some of your work.
And give them a little taste, a little teaser. Don't give it all to them. Let them get the book. Adia, do you want to start off for us? Just a short
Okay. Yeah, I chose to do micro poetry because it's very small. So I probably can do two because it's very small. All right, so this one is called Weathered. Weathered. Don't go. Stay with me in this moment, for we know not what comes next. Keep that storm in your stare, for though I have made a disaster, you still belong in my arms. So that's one. The other one is called Beautiful Mayhem. She is patient with him. She knows there is purpose in his madness. His hardest battle is for peace of mind, and he will lose many times to win it. So that's it.
Wow, got
I
chills
love
off
that.
that.
I love that.
Love
Definitely
Yeah.
attention grabber. And I think
Mhm.
great for students' attention span as well. So that's perfect. I love that. Micro poetry. Is that what it's called?
Yes,
I
micro.
learned something new. I didn't even know that.
I
How about
didn't
you,
either.
Vincent? A little excerpt. So
Okay.
give them a little taste.
Okay. Did you say Beautiful Mayhem?
Right.
Man, that's the kind of title I wish I would have written. It's that good. I love that.
I love it
I like
Thank
too.
you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So I have one called Only a Teacher. I thought I was Black, but I'm not going to read either one of those. I want to read one that I dedicated to my mom, and I think that would apply to many educators around the country because we all are, many women are being mothers to a lot of our students. So this one is called The Mother I Adore. Finding the right words to epitomize who you truly are is incredibly hard. For you've instilled the essentials in me, and for that alone, I thank God. Now, initially, it amazed how my friends called you mother, but now I realize your effect on not just our family, but many others. Now, when I speak of love, beauty, and respect, I'm inspired by you. Masculinity and strength I possess, however, still sharing the many characteristics you do. And no matter how many days pass, your generosity will forever be in mine. You'll give your last dollar to ensure your child faces no critical bind. And because of you, Mom, I now know what to look for in a wife. And if she's half as good as you, I'll be happy for the rest of my life. Now, though I may not speak the words as often as others do, I can't begin to tell you how much I adore you.
Wow. I think you're supposed to be saying Love that. That is awesome.
Thank
Both
you
of those.
all. Yes, phenomenal poets, authors, educators. Thank you all around. Thank you all for being our second guest on our Author Showcase. And here's a little free promotion and marketing for you all.
Yes, yeah.
We're better together. We're better together. We appreciate you. And we're going to share some information with everyone just in terms of how to get access to those modules so you can take your books further. Get them. Let's press the easy button, get your books in schools, learn how to write grants, do all those things so you all can realize the dreams that you want to, that you have for your books that you all created and are putting out there for the world to see.
Thank you. Thank you. And just wanted to say thank you all again for allowing us to have this opportunity to share something that we're very passionate about. And, you know, all of us are in the same boat. We're striving to get our passion to the masses. So I wish all of you much success in your endeavors.
Yes.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yes.
And as Bejanae stated, thank you all for joining us. Those of you who are joining us and will go back and watch the feed later, we put all of the links in the comments to be able to purchase the books from Vincent and Adia, as well as purchase the, if you're an author, programs that Bejanae and I offer for getting your books into schools and learning how to get grants to get more books into different places that you would like for them to go. So thank you all for joining us. I actually have one more interview to do. I've been on this is an all-day thing for me today. Real Talk with Chandra and Georgette. I'll be joining them at 8:00. So I'll share that to my page if you all want to join us. Yeah. They are interviewing my business partner, Tammy Taylor, and I about principals' hearts and our journeys as principals in schools. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Power of Collaboration. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.